Are streaming.
Oh boy.
So,
Okay. Let me change my resolution. Oh,
we have some technical difficulties for today. Uh, Normally, we do all our work on an EC2 instance that Jay sets up. And for reasons we're not quite entirely sure of, that EC2 instance doesn't exist today. Probably what happened is we we realized we needed to recreate it last week, and then we forgot to do that. I'm guessing that's what actually happened. Because I've never had an EC2 instance disappear on me. But we have none here, which means we need to set up one. That actually, unfortunately, takes a little bit of time, so we're not going to be able to do our regularly scheduled program today. However, we thought it might be interesting just to show you what the process is like. It's not horribly interesting, but a lot of people have never done it. And so let's go and take a look at that. And Jay, want to walk us through what we're hitting here?
can you double check that your audio is being broadcast? Because that's been an issue in the
That
past.
has been an issue. All right, let me see what I can do about that. Twitch TV and Llewellyn Falco. All right, click to unmute, and do I hear anything? All right. Hey, I do hear stuff. Do I hear anything?
Awesome. Okay.
All right.
Okay, we're all right. So I'm creating an EC2 instance. I'm using Windows Server 2019 base.
Yes. Yeah, we don't need containers, so we're just looking for a simple Windows server, and we want a Windows server because this is a dev machine. We might do this differently if we were deploying, but we're not deploying. We're a dev machine. You're doing a T2X large.
I want 4 cores and 16 RAM.
Yeah. It also gives us moderate network performance, which, by normal people's terms, is amazing. It's a gigabit-ish speeds, up and down.
I've been doing this thing, which maybe we should talk about sometime, but it's very convenient.
Oh, yeah. Why do you do that?
I don't really understand this, but if you have this role already created and you select it here, then you get a kind of text console access to the machine later,
Oh,
which is a nice like alternative way to connect to the machine. And a little extra disk space.
yeah. So this is because Visual Studio takes a lot of disk space, and it will blow up your 30 megabytes. I think you put 100, right?
I put 100, yeah.
Yeah, but I usually am putting 60, which is usually more than enough. It's just disk space is so stupidly cheap that there's no real reason to even think about this problem, other than the fact that you do have to think about it since 30 is too little.
Wish they would bump up the default number to be just high enough to meet my needs. And then I
It would
wouldn't
be
have to think
really
about
nice, right? It's like they didn't consider you at all.
it.
So, yeah, so basically that's it in terms of creating a machine, but it's not going to give us a usable machine right now, right? It's just going to give us a Windows instance. And we're using this as a developer machine, and that is not the same as using it as a server. So servers are very locked down. They're very protective. The machines we're using are not as locked down. We're not as protective of them. They're also like throwaway machines, right? Like we rarely keep these over a month. And in that month, they are maybe on like 6 hours, 7 hours, right? It's not, so they're very disposable machines. So that allows us to be a little bit looser with the security, allows us to do things like stream this, which is not a thing you would ever want to do with a real server. All right, so now it's running, and you can see in the status check that it's being initialized. This is going to take, I don't know, maybe a minute or two. Not very long, but keep in mind that we are spinning up this machine from nothing, right? If we were just pulling it out of hibernation, it would be pretty quick. Once that happens, there's some stuff we want to do on the machine. So let's open up that script. Yeah, so if you go to, oh, is this a script you run, or do we have this actually in the Sudoku?
I think we have a Sudoku specific one.
Oh, we should make a Sudoku specific.
What?
I think you understand the words I'm trying to say. Let's make that while this is spinning up.
I'm going to just copy this one as a base.
Wait. Which one is? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay.
Call this machine setup.
Yep. Okay, so the first thing is this should be a new one, so it shouldn't be under master. It should be under main. No, it looks like it's under master. Why is it under master?
Because we cloned an existing repo.
Because you cloned an existing repo, and yeah, okay. So this line 2, what's going on here is it's literally referring to itself, right? So it's saying, load this file off the internet and run it.
Invoke web request is like curl or wget.
Yeah, I think of it a lot like wget. And invoke web request is a little bit verbose, although it's nice to read. So we use the shortened version of it down on 6 and 7 of just IWR. But basically it's doing the same thing. So the first thing this does is get itself, and then the second thing it does is get two other things. They get, yeah. After all that's done, we're going to have a machine that's set up with Windows and Visual Studio, and we'll talk about what that means in a second. But then we are going to change directories. We're going to create a directory called source, and we're going to move to that directory. Now, you are not using CD to move your directories. You're using this push D. How is push different than C?
It creates a stack. It remembers where you were before. So if you push D into a directory and then pop D later, it takes you back to where you were.
Nice. So you have that sort of like breadcrumbs of going back. You don't have to, yeah. Nice. Okay, so then we set an alias to GitHub. And then we clone this repo. And then after we clone the repo, we move into the wrong directory. So let's fix that on 15. Then we move into the directory that we just cloned. And we open GitHub at this repo. I'm assuming that associates it with GitHub Desktop.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's this.
Nice. Really, I feel like that set alias almost should be put into the Windows repo.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a one-time, yeah, let's do that. It's a one-time thing.
One-time thing, and it's associated with how we install the program. All right, so you get to see us refactoring scripts instead of code today. But, you know, scripts are code.
So we want to bring this line in.
Oh, wait, there's an interesting thing that's happening right now, which is you do this. How many times have you set up this machine? 3, 4 times?
Yeah.
And up until this point, you've just done it. Mm-hmm. Which makes total sense to me because that is exactly what I would do if I was doing it by myself. I have a job to get done, and I am just like, get this job done. But one thing that I notice when you pair or mob or do an ensemble is that you tend to do more than just get the job done. There's a tendency to improve how you do the work. Probably it's just the second pair of eyes, or possibly it's just that when you have two people, there is that it's easier to focus on improvement, not just completion.
I've noticed that go different ways at different times. Sometimes I think my pair partner wants to get the job done. I better not interrupt us with improvement. Or I start to propose an improvement and my pair partner gets impatient. Why do you keep distracting us? So I think it's a negotiation to have there.
That could be. Yeah, like so I've done a lot of pairing with you. I've done a lot of pairing with Claire. I've done a lot of pairing with Lars. Done a lot of pairing with Simon. Done a lot of pairing with Tim. Like, I feel like I have little versions of them on my shoulders when I'm talking or when I'm thinking. And so you're right. Like, I think people have like a almost like a personality that they bring to the conversation. All right, so the next thing we do is we execute the .NET, which basically compiles and runs this whole thing. And then you open it up. This is the same sort of thing. These are just sort of like loading up your scenarios into the thing. And then we do this get exe push.
So there's nothing to push. We don't have any changes. This is just to force it to go through the authentication cycle. But by doing it from the command line, the credentials get saved in a place that is accessible for all the different Git scenarios.
Nice. And then we undo the 2 pushes that we did. I almost want to like indent. Let's indent 12 through 19.
Is there a... Yes.
Yep. And then let's indent. All right, cool. All right, so now we have this, and you fixed it in the Windows base for the get alias.
Yep,
Perfect.
right there.
All right, so let's go and run the script, and then we'll talk about what's happening, because our machine should definitely be up. Yeah, you can see running. It doesn't have a name. Maybe we can give it a name to. It's easy to remember.
So the thing I'm looking for is for status check to say 2 if 2 checks passed. Sometimes there's a tiny delay between when that happens and when you can log in, but that's the most important check for status.
Yeah.
And then we can connect, and there's different ways to connect. But because we selected that IAM group, AI, I don't really know what it is, this connect button should work.
Oh, interesting. I usually RDP this. Are you doing this when you connect in general, or are you RDPing?
I normally RDP. I do this just for one task during setup. I do it for setting the admin password.
Okay. Should I be blanking my screen right now?
I will let you know if you need to. Probably don't. But I can't remember the incantation now. User star. Password star.
Oh, that's very interesting. Are you using then a key to do this?
No.
So you have not set a PIM.
I've set it, but I never use it.
Can you not set it?
I don't think you have the choice.
Oh no, there is a choice.
Is it? Okay.
There is a choice to not use a PIM, which is a very interesting choice to me.
Let's kick off another and see what happens.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. This one you can just use the standard things other than because the whole point is just to set the password and delete the server. You could even do a T2 macro on this one. Yeah. But you do need to set the role for quick setup.
This will leave it.
Yeah. Just review and launch.
Yeah.
Now that, if you go back to the instances, oh wait, so wait, what did you just do?
I stopped.
No, so launch.
Okay. So
Here,
proceed without a keypad.
I will not unless I already know the password built in. I can't imagine this working, but let's find out. Maybe it does.
All right, that's going to take a few minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll pop back. So here, that's done.
Okay, so wait, so what do we do here? We did net
user administrator.
And then that sets the password, and then you set it.
This is an asterisk. It's very dark.
It is very dark.
I think
maybe if you hit Control plus a couple times.
That's not the username I was expecting.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's definitely easier. Okay, so, but the important part that you did here is the net user administrator.
With
star,
an asterisk.
And then that lets you set the password to log into the machine.
Yep.
Okay, and so now we're going to RDP into it.
So you go back to the connect screen, but to the 3 tabs. I've never made the 3rd tab work. I don't care.
Okay, so the interesting thing to me is, like, what I would normally do here is I'd click on the get password, and then I would put in the key that I have, and it would give me a password. Which again, I would then, when I log in the first time, I usually update to a standard password because who cares about this stuff? But yeah. So if you don't have that user set up, did you have to do something special to set up that user?
No.
Okay, that's just out of the box there. Just set it to quick instance. I am going to be using that. Thank you.
Okay. You do have to create the IAM role, but there's a little link there for how you create it.
Okay.
And it's been a while, but it seemed obvious.
Okay. Famous last words.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Oh yeah, so this thing that you just click through is basically saying, hey, I'm not sure I can authenticate this random server that you just passed up. And absolutely you can't. Like, because this server has no real identity. It is generic and disposable.
All right, now that we're in, we're going to grab that URL that we made for ourselves. Let's go look at the machine setup. And we wrote this comment, so hopefully we got the URL right. Yep.
And basically, this is what is involved in setting up a machine. The rest of this process is basically going to be waiting. But while we're waiting, why don't we go through and talk about what's actually happening?
Okay.
So we start with this Windows machine. So let's go look at what does that mean. So this is in a repo we created called Machine Setup. And let's do it not as the raw.
Not really an easy way to get back.
You can't just take away raw?
Okay, maybe you can. No, see, it's GitHub user content. It's a different domain.
So yeah, just change that to github.com?
It's a job for machines. So.
This is a job for machines, agreed. Yeah. Oh, right. So get rid of the main Windows 1. There's something that goes in between there.
It's a blob. Yeah, this is way too much.
This is way too much. I totally agree with that. Click on the Windows one down here, though, but now we get color.
Yeah, I'm glad we're looking at it this way.
Blob. We need to put blob in the middle. Yeah. All right. So, okay. So the first thing we do is we write this thing about the reboot. the reason we do this rather than just rebooting at the end is because after this script is done, usually another script is done. Almost always another script is going to be written right after this. We don't actually want to do a reboot. There are things we've thought about on how to fix it, but they're all overly complicated, and we don't like that so much. Then we say requires run as administrator. That just, does that actually do anything, or just if it does it exit if you're not administrator?
It gives you an error if you're not administrator, if you're not elevated.
Nice. And then again, this IWR again, which we know is like wget. Now you actually set this site up, right?
Yeah. So cinst is a domain
Yep.
in San Martin. So when you install Chocolatey, you can write Choco install and install stuff, but the shortcut for it is to run cinst, which you see like right here, cinst. And so I went and bought the CIN domain in San Martin and set it up as a redirect to the right URL to install Chocolatey, and then I gave it to the Chocolatey people.
Nice. So this just is a really simple way to install Chocolatey onto your machine. Yeah. Then line 9.
So I want to say one more thing about that. If you are ever on a new Windows machine and you just need to Choco install some stuff, and this is designed to be small enough that you could probably remember it. That's like how compact can you make it?
For me, the part that's confusing isn't the cinst. That part's really easy to remember. Mm-hmm. It's the stuff, the wget command around it.
Yeah. You could write wget right there.
Can you write wget nowadays?
It's an alias for IWR. It's a bad alias, right? They're not the same thing, but it'll work here. And
but do you still need to use those things?
You don't need to use that. You only need that if you've never run Internet Explorer. But if you ran it that one time so you could install Chrome, then you've been past that step. And then the IEX you do need.
Because that executes it. Yeah. All right. And then, so this gets Chocolatey on our machine. Then we configure Chocolatey 2 ways. One, we stop showing the download progress because that's just really annoying. It's not annoying if you're watching it, but it is annoying as this script just needs to run headless. And then allow global confirmation means we don't have to always say don't ask us for confirmations, right? Because otherwise the script just gets really annoying.
Yeah, by default with Chocolatey install, every time you install something, it says, this is what we're about to do. Are you sure you're okay with that?
Yeah, and we are.
I'm going to say yes.
So Noah. What is this?
This is a bundle of things that aren't really related, but one of them is when you run Internet Explorer on a server, it's very locked down. Yeah. And so you like it won't run JavaScript. There's a ton of things it won't do, which means it's basically unusable.
Yeah, I think of this as let Windows Server act like a desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And VS Code we use for a lot.
Yeah, it's just a generally good text editor. So it's sort of the thing, regardless of what language you're doing, you're going to kind of want this on your computer.
Yep. And then we install Chrome, and hey, we discovered this. It was nice.
Set default browser. Oh, nice. I was wondering how you did that. But then you do another set default browser Chrome, right underneath
this. So this installs a program called set default browser.
Ah. So okay, so that's not a configuration to CSGO. So one of the things about Chocolatey is you can install multiple things on the same line. We tend not to do that often, although you'll see us do it in a second again. But we do that just so it becomes very clear how things group in our scripts. But you can actually install all of the Chocolatey things on one line if you so desired.
Yeah, it's nice for diffs to be able to add and remove lines, sublines. But maybe it would be clearer if we did that.
Ooh, I don't like that at all. No.
Okay, I'm not doing it.
That makes me feel like it's related to the thing. This is
all right, so we set default browser to Chrome.
Yep.
And then install Git stuff.
Actually, if you want it to be clear, white space. Just add a piece of white space after 14.
We're making paras. So I want one right there. Oops, not there. 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 Is that?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I'd move VS Code then down underneath it because it's oddly in the middle of nowhere where it doesn't need to be. Maybe I'd even move it closer to where we install the plugins.
That's. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
There's often ordering dependencies in here, and they can be subtle, but I think we're okay.
Yeah.
This we don't need anymore. This was my previous attempt to get the console login to work, but it's not necessary.
And now that you have that other thing, it's great. Yeah, delete annoying Windows notification sounds. Yeah, they are not helpful to us.
I want this applied to every Windows machine. If you're near me, I'm going to ask you for this because every time an error dialog pops up and it makes a chime, you don't need that, and I don't want it.
Oh, we skipped over a couple things. Let's scroll back up. So okay, we set Chrome as a default browser. We install quite a lot of different versions of Git. Command line Git, Posh Git is like a nicer command line Git. GitHub Desktop, you've seen us use all the time. I think of GitHub Desktop as make GitHub feel like Subversion, right? Like just really the things you do almost all the time are trivial. Make the things that should be trivial super trivial. And then the moment it gets complex, you drop to the command line. Yeah. And then we alias this so that we can use it easier. I like that. It's possible that even without the alias, this would occur when you reload the computer. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, one of the things that's really missing from both Bash and PowerShell is a reload. I really wish there was just a command line reload that just refreshed your environment as if you had opened it again. Yeah. Okay, so then Notepad++, because also just like VS Code, great little text editor. Sometimes you just really want it there. Likewise, Beyond Compare, great little diff tool. Just sort of want it everywhere.
Notepad++ is really useful for seeing line endings. Whenever you have one of those really annoying line endings issues, it'll make them explicit. So that's why I'm glad we have it.
I also use it a lot when I just want quick, like, I just need to see this file and do something really quick. Like, I think it is nicer to do like a 1 or 2 character thing than VS Code when I don't really care about much else. Or if I want to see a binary file. I'm much more likely to open it in Notepad++ than I'm going to open in VS Code. I think it handles binaries better.
Yeah. All right, I want to talk a little bit about how the sound thing works because
this is a server. It's not a...
Yeah, there's 2 parts here. This just enables the audio service, which is normally off on server. That's the make server like desktop thing. But this is these default notification sounds. And they keep moving where this is in change system sounds. There we go. The UI in Windows keeps changing about where to find this, but the default behavior is all of these things have noises. And
we can't hear them right now, actually, because so the interesting thing about the setup audio service is even though that is going to enable the audio service, until you reboot, you will not hear sounds.
There's all these different notifications, and they're not even short enough. They're occupying my sound space, so I want them to go away. But in server, like the one line way to just make them go away is to delete all of these registry keys, and then they don't happen anymore.
Nice. All right.
All right. So that setting adds seconds. We haven't done that here. We should go look at. So you see my clock here shows 8:41 a.m. If I switch over to the remote that we were setting up, it says 3:41:11. So the fact that the seconds are ticking by is what we're trying to
And the reason that we do that is now that all the computers are internet time synced, by our seconds will always be the same. And when they're not, that is a way for us to detect lag. right? And so sometimes, I'll be like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing it? And you're like, I am doing this. And usually that's where we check the seconds and say, like, how bad is our lag? Am I 5 seconds behind? Am I 30 seconds behind? Maybe I need to drop the connection and reconnect or figure something else out. But all right. So, and then what's our next thing that we're doing here? Open Explorer windows to PC instead of quick access. Oh, nice.
So if you open Explorer, this is not the default. The default is this view.
Yeah. Which, who cares about this view?
Yeah. And so then you have to.
I want to see
your
the
drives,
computer.
click this, and you can do it in the UI. Options, man. There's options, and there's a drop down.
Yeah.
Just like, but there's just options, and then here, open to, and then you have to choose between these two things.
Yeah.
That's what I'm dialing.
So I'm curious, like, how did you figure all this stuff out?
I don't know. Decades of
Lots of Googling, or
yeah, plenty of that.
yes, the value of an annoyed programmer is.
I mean, part of it, I worked at Microsoft for a long time, and so more of the inside Windows stuff is kind of just moving around the network of developers at Microsoft. So got exposed to it there, and that feels like an unfair advantage. Like, why isn't that information more available in the world? Why is it contained within the company? But
Yeah.
that's how people are.
This is like our small attempt to make it more available.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this next part does VS Code. And this is actually super useful for two things. Even if we didn't want any of these things, I would still like to have two of them, because I very often, if I'm in a place where I want to use VS Code for my language, I'm coming here and copying this because it makes it very easy to figure out what things I want. And it does it in two different ways. One, there's this general structure where I need to add like a line 34 or a line 35 to like put stuff in. And hey, look, I don't need to separate them with commas. They just need to be stuff. And like, so it gives me that pattern recognition of, hey, here's how I'm going to install stuff into VS Code. But the other thing that's really helpful is, where did you get this, bracket pair colorizer 2? And the thing that's really nice about that is, open up VS Code now. It should be installed already on our machine, because this has been cranking around in the background while we've been blabbing on. So what I do to figure this out is I go click on the extensions little globby thing here, and it shows me, and hey, we got this bracket 2 colorizer 2. Okay, so now I'm looking for that word, which you can see right here. I'm like, okay, so it's right here. So now I go and I install the thing manually, and I look in that space. So let's go do a search for something for, say, Rust. All right, yeah, so, okay, so this is going to be rush-lang.rust, right? So I can use pattern recognition from that to figure out how to add my new plugins. And that's really, really useful to me. So it gives me the overall structure, but it also shows me how to find the ID or the identifier for the package manager, which I've been really grateful that you did that. All right, let's jump back. So we install, so like these are like sort of the more generic things I would think of, because this is our generic Windows base, right? So yeah, it's really nice to be able to change case. It's really nice to be able to spell check. It's really nice to be able to partial diff. I would love partial diff. That allows you to take two selections and diff them. I love PowerShell, Prettifier, VS Code icons. I have no idea what that one is.
You need to open a folder to see it. We don't really have much on the machine right now. It gives you, see these icons? It's a link.
Yeah, nice. All right. So these are all things that sort of, regardless of what language you're going to be developing in, it just makes a nicer VS Code. This next thing does stuff for what? What does this do?
These
Actually?
are changing VS Code settings to be the way that I like or we like.
Yes. So we render side by side in the diff editor. Oh, right. We enable the quick the autosave. So that I like autosave a lot. You set up your icons. You do stuff on Git. Nice. Okay. So this just sets all of this sets up VS Code like we want. It almost feels like we should pull this out.
To be its own file.
I feel like, yeah, because all of this is like set up VS Code.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about doing that?
I feel uncertain.
Okay.
Part of what I like, so with this system, we're telling people, you should run our script. And
Yeah.
in general, if somebody on the internet tells you to run a script, you should be a little
afraid.
cautious.
I mean,
And
the
so
plus side is this is a throwaway machine. So what's the worst that you can happen? Like,
that's true. So the plainer the script is, the easier it is for the reader to know that it doesn't do anything
malicious.
malicious or unexpected.
Yeah.
Even though as a software designer, building abstractions is a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
But in this particular context, I think I don't want abstraction because abstractions hide unnecessary details. But I think right now we want no hiding.
Okay. I mean, we already are going through 3 scripts.
Yeah.
So there is a fair amount of that, but okay, I'll go with that for now. Okay, so our next thing, we set a
Install
preference
mob time.
and we install mob time. Yeah.
So this downloading a large file with PowerShell is extremely slow, and it's really unfortunate. And the reason it's slow is that it's printing out this progress animation. So by disabling progress, then it speeds up the download orders of magnitude. It's crazy.
And I love mob time. We use it all the time. But there is one issue with some of the later versions, so we're using an earlier version that is more reliable.
It might be time to try a newer version.
Yeah, it might be. Or maybe you should contact Jason and make sure the current version is working. But yeah, it would also be super nice to make like a chocolatey for this. I've never actually made a chocolatey before. Have you?
I might have. It's a Nuget package.
Okay.
So we've come close to it, right?
Close to it, yeah. Yeah. I think that one doesn't work yet.
Okay. That might be useful. Anyway, we should.
No, that is useful. It's not operating correctly.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Then we open up mind map. Now, the interesting thing about this is we reboot the machine. So opening this up, this window, this is what we use normally for our retros. The only thing this actually does is it puts it in my history, which I really appreciate. So there's 2 things going on here. One is we're installing something called System Pin, and this allows us to set up our taskbar like we would like it. The downside of this is System Pin, the chocolatey thing is just not well maintained. So that's why we put the ignore checksums to say, hey, we want the latest version of syspin even if chocolatey hasn't done their proper maintenance on their checksums. And then we use it almost immediately because we want Chrome to show up there. We want GitHub Desktop. We want Mob Time. We want iExplorer.
We don't want iExplorer. Although
we don't want iExplorer. Well, yeah, you're right. That doesn't work. For some reason, Microsoft ignores the unpinning of it in Internet Explorer. It's probably a very unintentional bug.
So here in the start area, you can see like there's GitHub. There's browser. Like that's what that did is it gave us these links.
And some of these are super useful, like AnyDesk, because AnyDesk can be sometimes hard to find when you're searching for it. Where it's like, hey, here it is. Yeah. If we scroll down, I think that's everything. Oh, the very last thing we do is we install AnyDesk. I love this. Often fails because AnyDesk chocolate authoring is bad. So again, we put that at the end. Sometimes what I'll do here is also put the ignore checksum on AnyDesk.
Oh, let's do that.
All right. And so that gives us just a basic Windows machine. But of course, we are also doing Visual Studio C++ or C++, C# development. So let's go take a look at what that also looks like.
We need an IDE's directory.
Yeah, that might be nice. Although the refactoring of this one is particularly annoying because all the
Everything in
things
the
that
world
link
uses
to
it.
this, yeah, we'd have to do a redirect script and keep this to do that as a
Yep.
valid refactoring. Okay, so this one is much simpler. Now, this is weird. You do another requires administrator and you reinstall Chocolatey. Tell me about that.
So this script can work on its own. So if you already have a Windows machine that you're using, it's not necessarily a throwaway Ec2 instance, and you just think you want Visual Studio on it, you can just run this. Or if you've already been through this process for one language, and then afterwards you say, oh, I sure wish I had that other language, you can run just the language script on it.
So it's meant to work on top of, but not depend on the previous. So this is like the minimum that's required for that. So yeah, we pop that in, we do the things we did before, and now on line 8 we get to the more unique stuff, which is, hey, let's install Visual Studio. Wow, I would have expected this to just be Visual Studio. What are these other things?
Things that they're dependencies. But we noticed that if we didn't install these other things, that our builds didn't work. So we installed the whole thing.
And then, of course, ReSharper, because we love ReSharper, and nCrunch, because we love nCrunch. And now, Nuget command line. So that also allows us to run Nuget from the command line. It's pretty self-explanatory there, but yeah. Again, this is something you would sort of expect to show up just in Visual Studio, but doesn't. Again, we reinstall cpan. Now, the nice thing about Chocolatey is Chocolatey, if you try to install something that's already been installed, just basically says, yeah, I'm done. Right. So it doesn't have to redo this. And then we use the system pen to pen Visual Studio to our desktop because, of course, we're going to want to use that. And then we again write reboot. Okay, and so that gives us a system with Visual Studio, and then as we already saw how the rest of that goes. I feel like the script is probably done. You want to check in on it?
Sure.
Not
It is still
quite
running.
done. So where are we in this? Oh, we're cloning the Sudoku kata, right? So that's actually good. And we're running. Can you make this font a little bit bigger so it shows up to everyone
can't.
bigger? Oh, you can't hit Control Plus?
No, not here. Maybe if we start installing Windows Terminal, but there we go.
There, yeah, that's better. Oh, and lovely green on blue. Okay, so yeah, so okay, so scroll down. We are installing. Oh, so we're okay. So right now we're building the Sudoku client, right?
Yeah.
And this seems to be taking a lot longer than I would expect. Is that because it's downloading packages,
I think
or
it's stalled. Yeah, I don't really know what thing it's stalled on. We just made a bunch of changes, so who knows which of them are the reason for the stall.
oh, it's probably that. What was that?
That was Visual Studio. I'm just closing one thing at a time until this works. I bet it's this one.
That could also. Oh, yeah, because
All right, we're almost there. There we go.
It was
Yeah, I
that.
just needed credentials
It needed
for.
credentials, yeah.
Yeah. Why can't I
Because
clone this?
you do a GitHub. No, it's not the clone. It's the push.
Oh, by
Which
design.
as you said by design, is supposed to put the credentials into the command line.
It's funny.
Okay, so it's now done. Let's reboot the machine. So there's two things that occur in the reboot of the machine that I'm aware of. One is the sounds actually turn on. And the second thing is that AnyDesk works. I have no idea why AnyDesk doesn't work the first time, but it doesn't. So I've often like turned on AnyDesk and other people try to connect to it and they just can't. So right now you're trying to connect to a machine that is rebooting. And so what it's basically doing is waiting until the machine is actually up. And then it timed out. But probably if you reconnect, it will reconnect. I feel like this is the watched pot thing.
We should talk about something interesting.
I don't have anything interesting though.
Quick, do something. So we could multitask a little more. We could task swap over. We started this
Oh, yeah.
throwaway instance. So what we're testing here is if I connect, yeah, that's working.
Wait, hon. Let's see if it actually works.
It's doing a lot.
It is. Yeah. Can you have that? I mean, we did a micro, so it's going to be much slower than our T2. But is it?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, set the password.
Oh, geez, I can't type. All right. Yeah, there it is.
You did
that is
without
slow.
a key.
Net user administrator.
Put in your password. All right.
And now if you go to RDP client.
Did you mute while you put in your password?
No.
Okay. Because like I didn't hear keys clicking or anything. I was like, wow, he's really good with security.
It might be that Zoom is good at canceling out key sounds.
No, not normally. Normally I totally hear your mechanical keyboard. Wow. Yeah, so that is a huge learning for me today. You don't need keys. You just need to set up the quick access thing. That's fantastic, actually. I feel like it would be really good to put that command that you put in there somewhere. Let's do that somehow. I've been meaning to make a thing about this anyways. So let's go to the remote desktop. Yeah, there, and make an MD file.
The README?
Yeah.
So
Actually, I don't necessarily want it in the README. Let's just make an MD file of just configuring AWS.
okay.
Or setting up.
We have this doc here, and I feel like this doc needs to become part of this.
Not disagreeing with that either.
Okay.
But that needs to come in here. And when it comes in, it will probably expand and separate and that kind of stuff. So we're just gonna make this really basic for right now. Yeah. Quick setup for something, and then from the console say, and then use the backticks. So here, yeah, that. And then, okay. So we're going to go just above this a little bit. Put a heading that says creating an instance. And then underneath there, with Markdown, it's just one dot, one dot. You don't have to. So the first thing you're going to do is click Create Instance. 2, you're going to select a Windows server base.
We've written all of this before.
I'm not entirely sure if we have. 3, we're going to select the T2 X large. Next, if your Windows, or sorry, if your Visual Studio use 60 megabytes, otherwise use the default. Next, select IM quick setup for something. Yeah, I'm good with that being appropriately vague. Next, after it launches, connect using.
Launch.
I think click launch. Don't supply a key.
Special name for that key, but that's okay.
Connect to the console and run. Yep, that. Supply your password. And then connect with RDP. Open PowerShell and run script. And then I'm not sure if this is worthwhile, but under Open PowerShell, you can just right click and run PowerShell. Right click the start button, and there will be a run PowerShell as an administrator. All right. So hopefully other people will appreciate all of this, but future me will definitely appreciate line 7. WinXA will open PowerShell as administrator?
Windows X is this menu.
Oh, I did not know that. Nice. Oh, I've been surprised on the amount of learnings I've had today. Thank you for doing this exercise with me. Oh yeah, let's commit this. And then actually, this will be a good opportunity to show a bit of shutting and destroying. So since that machine has served its purpose, if we go back to our instances, and we right click on that. So we have a stop instance, but we also have a terminate instance. And the difference between these two is stopping it is just like turning it off, or terminating it is deleting it. So let's do, I kind of wish they said delete instance, but terminate instance. And pretty much now that machine is gone. So it has served its purpose in under an hour. I think this is like the definition of cattle, not pets. Okay, so let's go into our Twitch machine. We should be able to it definitely should reboot it by now. And now you'll notice like stuff is up if we open this up. Now there is some things we're going to have to do because it's the first time going Visual Studio and we don't have a way to do this as a command line. If any of you are watching build tools, it's really nice if you make all your configuration stuff command line. Like it'd be really nice if we could have set this, set the blue, all at the command line. All right.
We did find how to send keystrokes to applications. So we could automate some of this, but it's
Really
really
annoying
fragile.
and fragile. Yeah.
And like, as far as how this is GUI, it's even worse. Like this, each step here does first time initialization. So it kind of freezes for a minute and then prompts you, and then freezes for another minute and prompts you.
Yeah. This would be really
Let's
nice
get
stuff
there.
to be able to command line set up.
Now
And
that's
that's not
quick.
to say not have the GUI. Like, obviously, I want the GUI. I just also want to be able to do this without the GUI.
So just to be clear, we do have licenses
Yep.
for ReSharper.
Yeah.
I'm happy to pay them money, but on a throwaway machine, we don't have to apply the license.
Yeah, and it's also just really annoying to configure the license here. But it is important to have it.
And right here, you can right click and close, and this is the one that matters. So what I want is, I want these pixels. I know it's not a lot, but I paid for these pixels. I want to be able to put useful content in them. If I click on this to open it and then close the window, the first time you open it, it takes a while. It has to load all of the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
But if you right click and choose close, that never has to happen.
Oh. Yeah. I'm sort of surprised we have to do this because didn't we have a line that opened it with the solution?
We did, but we never clicked through the next steps to tell it.
So it doesn't.
Yes, launch
Yeah.
Visual Studio.
And then the next thing is, so this is going to come up, ReSharper is going to do its thing. That takes a bit of time. Also, when we run InCrunch, it's going to prompt us with a lot of things that are a little bit annoying. But InCrunch is quite nice about not being annoying after we do this. Yes, we want multiple cores. Yes, we want it to be fast. Yes, we want to run our tests.
And this default is wrong. Yes, I want my test runner to run my tests. And this default is also wrong.
Yes, I want my test runner to run my tests.
Put that there. Open the risk progress dialog. Put that there.
This again would be all stuff that'd be really wonderful if we could configure from a command line.
Yeah.
It's so weird, right? Because like, as we have done this, like the first time we made these scripts, it was like just get Windows working right, and then it was like, try to get like the code on there, and now every time we sort of revisit it, it's like my level of annoyance has moved, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is great, and now it's like, nope, that I'm taking for granted. Now I got this other stuff that is annoying me. Why can't I just touch it and it's up and it's gone?
Key bindings are working.
Yeah, and you can see the tests are running. Are they running? I'm seeing a lot of black.
Yeah, well, we're not in our branch, so the test coverage is almost nothing.
That's an interesting point. Can you push us to our branch?
Yes. Okay, this is a file conflict that Visual Studio doesn't know how to navigate. We're going to delete this file. Then we're going to switch. All right, and I need to wrap up too. I feel like we're at a good spot.
I feel like we are. I do want to see a test pass, just to confirm that we are at the place that we could start. But this is obviously super useful for us. We use it all the time. But we also know what we're doing. The thing that I really love about this is, imagine you're onboarding a new employee. All they really need is that one line of PowerShell. Like, hey, where's the PowerShell script to run this? and they're up to a fully working development environment. A lot of times people talk about like the good way of onboarding is to document, but I find that documents, like it was 2 or 3 days of setting up a machine to get me to a useful place with documents, and the documents were always stale and confusing. And the nice thing about scripts as documentation is they work and they stay like executing documentation stays working. And I really, really love that. And then also it's the cognitive load here. I don't need, like, we spend an hour understanding what we're doing, but you don't actually need to do that. You just need to open the instance and run that script. No understanding is actually needed. So hopefully people found this useful. It was not at all what we were planning to do. But next week we will continue with traditional refactoring of actual C# code instead of PowerShell scripts.
Yeah.
All right. I think
Cool.
that's good for today.
All right.